Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge. Today, I have a great person. She's not a veteran, which is okay. We're on a streak of non-veteran guests, but this one right here, you guys are all going to enjoy because she talks about the same stuff that I do, which is the important things, which are the people in the workplace. Her name is Tiffany. Tiffany, do you want to give an introduction and tell everybody a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me today, JJ. And I love what I do. I actually just had some unexpected visitors here at the office, and I was sharing with them what I do. So I'm an HR and culture plus DEIB consultant, and that is how I describe myself at the core of what the work that I do at CEPHR. So we are in HR primary boutique firm, but then also supporting small to medium businesses with their DEIB statements, helping them build strong cultures around equity. And it's just a lot of fun. We're coming into year 5 here. The team has grown, the business has grown, and I'm just excited to get into today's conversation.
Yeah, me too. So can you, that's an acronym. Your business name is, can you tell us can you tell us what that means?
Yes, thanks for that reminder. I usually do tell people. So it's cultivating the evolution of professional HR. And that is part of my vision. Yes, because we know that HR has a bad rep often. And so part of my vision is to bring it from what's seen as transactional into transformational. And that we don't have to be this scary place. We can and are your thought partners, whether it's leadership or employees who need a little bit of support. So we really are at the heart of everything and can help you keep the pulse. So that's how I came up with that acronym.
Man, and when you say it that way, it really gets me thinking, because you're right. HR does kind of have a bad rep. And the only reason they are that way, it's because they advocate for the people, which is weird because a business is nothing more than a group of people that come together to do a job. So when you think about it that way, you want to advocate for the people so that there's a place that they want to be a part of. It's interesting that they have a bad, but you're right, they do. So transformational rather than transactional. That's interesting. So in your opinion, because everybody has a different one, what would that look like to you? So if you're trying to re-envision what HR should look like, what is that transformational culture look like to you? What do you try to do with that?
Yeah, it really is. And this is why the culture piece is so important for us, because it is about helping to build the right cultures, healthy cultures where people, as I say, are not ruined from their cultures, but in places where they really want to stay, where they feel safe, they feel seen, heard, valued, and appreciated, which is kind of my litmus test of, are things going right here? Is this a place where people feel like they're not only hired for what they may bring or look like, their background and experiences, but they're there for really being included and in a place where they feel like they belong? And so for me, it's about also understanding that one of the greatest gifts that HR can provide an organization with, if we're brought to the table or we get that seat pulled out for us, is thought partnership. And so people often think we have to do all the things. If I do this, HR is going to stop me. HR is going to be a roadblock for me. And often we're great listeners. We really are. And it's how we can have the pulse. It's about understanding what the business needs. I like to meet with my leadership about once a month, maybe on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, because that way they have space and we have it scheduled so that we know what's coming up. And if we think about it from a place of intentionality, which is really what that transformational versus transactional looks like to me, as leaders, we're running around all the time with all the things. If you're running around all the time, like your hair's on fire and you never plan, well, of course you're going to leave HR in this bucket of that, but we are not going to always react or respond well to that place. And so sometimes there are hard lessons on the other side of that as well. And sometimes that's why we get a bad rep, but it's to grow leaders. That's why we do it.
Well, and I knew that. And, I'll be honest with you, the entire military, everyone views the military as being this hard, gruff type of environment. And honestly, the stuff that HR pushes is it's like the entire culture of the military, one where you include everybody. You have this, it's decentralized leadership, but it's where everybody is given a task. They're not micromanaged. You make sure that you are including people in the planning. That if when you include people in the planning, then 9 times out of 10 they're going to take ownership when it comes time to execute, and all of those things, that the soft skills, and they're not soft because they're not important. They're soft because there's a difference between a hard skill, which is the stuff you need to know to be able to do your job every day, and the hard skills, and that's how to build relationships and make it a valuable workplace so that everybody feels included, and they feel valued, and they feel heard and acknowledged, and all of those things that you said. And so it's just so great that you're doing that. We have an audience member here that says, I think HR often has a negative connotation. I've never thought of HR as an office that could help and support me. And that's Michael. He's a huge supporter of everything that I do on here. I mean, I'll ask you, what do you think about that?
I think that this is common, right? Like, we continuously at CEPHR are working on, I just had a conversation with my coach the other day around, what else can we be doing? How can we share this message? Because I think, I saw something earlier in my feed in the week where people are sharing similar things, and I would never take away someone's experience, such as what Michael is sharing. And thank you for the safety to share that with us, Michael. We often hear these stories. Sometimes HR has done this to ourselves in some ways, and a lot of folks don't like it when I say that, but it's true. And so unless we can't get ahead of it unless we do that. And so I think it is incumbent upon us as HR to not break confidentiality, to explain our role, to, if we're doing an exit interview to help, or an investigation or something, to help people understand that, to be an active participant in onboarding, not hide in our office if we have one, even the virtual one. We need to be out there and socializing with people and understanding that there is a connection. And that's one big way. And I think also, we need our businesses to not make us the bad person and say, well, HR told me to do it, or I'm just doing this. I don't agree with it, but HR said. And we have to be structured right in an organization as well. So a lot of that becomes the downfall and some of the pitfalls where people have experiences like what Michael is sharing.
Well, and I think it's, thank you for sharing that, Tiffany, but I think it's a little bit more than that too, right? A lot of people don't understand that though there are probably a certain number of people, if you're in a bigger organization, that may serve as the face of HR, HR is multifaceted. I mean, there is organizational development, there's workforce management, there's talent management, there's the regulated side where they're the ones who are helping you with the red tape so that you're not getting yourself or the company in any trouble. I mean, HR is just this huge machine. Now, that huge machine may turn to one or two the smaller the company gets, but at the end of the day, they are the human resource. So anything that you can think of that a person would need, if you can't get an answer for that with your direct supervisor, you go to HR. That's just the way it is. So back to the business side though, this wild thing called a business, even though everybody has worked in one at some point in their life, you decided, the same way I decided, to go out and start one of your own. What has that process looked like for you, and how is that transition to going from employee to employer or self-employer?
It's been interesting. Thank you for that invitation to share. It has been definitely interesting. I think when you work for another company in a more traditional setting, you have your hours set, or, even in the military, right? Like when we are in these more organized, I will call them structures, where we don't maybe have as much control over our responsibilities, our day-to-day, our flexibility in the day. But we have more opportunities for certain benefits or our cash flow to be more consistent. I will say, you learn to, I'll put in the words of my coach from yesterday, we learn and we unlearn. And so there are things that it's like, oh, wait, I have control over that. And probably the biggest thing for me is the impact. And that's what really pulled me to the side of leadership and entrepreneurship, is the this realization and kind of nagging feeling that was ongoing of, I could do this same thing with more flexibility, more breadth and depth, and across multiple organizations, and really craft who I serve and what it looks like, and not have some of the harmful experiences that even as an HR person that I've experienced in the workplace, and really help shape culture. And that was exciting for me. And so that's kind of how it began. And then it just never turned off. I'm like, oh, a couple friends. And I did. And then I helped more. And then people referred. And here we are almost 5 years later. Spring will be 5 years.
Yeah, the madness that is starting your own thing.
It's definitely that every week, sometimes daily.
But you're right. You know, that's the same thing that I did. The what caused me to go off and start my own thing is that, you know, I created a leadership development for the organization that I was working in. And I thought to myself, man, how wonderful would it be to be able to do this in multiple organizations? And so that's what got me to where similar story to what you have. And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs think that way. And, you know, a lot of people really want to do a lot more for their organization. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of organizations limit their people. And so the fact that you can do something that you love and then do it on your own, I mean, it's not unachievable. I mean, there are two people here that just recently, I mean, it's been less than 5 years, I believe, for both of us. And so we're doing it, and it's achievable. It's not easy. I will never, ever say that. But the fact that somebody can live that American dream, and that's what it takes. I mean, you have to have that wherewithal to fight for yourself, fight for your own organization, and know that if you don't, there's not going to be any financial compensation at the end of it.
So you are a leadership and resiliency coach, and it takes resilience. It takes getting knocked down so many times, pick back up, but also like realizing that you have community. So we are in community together, and that you're never doing this alone. I said recently in a presentation and on my post the other day about flying together. And hey, that has a military reference, but we want to make sure that we are never just like feeling like we are doing this alone, because that is very defeating. And even that's how I felt as an HR practitioner sometimes, like, hey, I'm alone. These leaders in this organization don't have my back. How can somebody do their job effectively if they're not set up for success? And if the systems, which is a lot of the work we do, if those are not set up to help people succeed, that's not healthy.
You know, that is one thing that I have learned, that if you put yourself out there and you ask, people will help you. The entrepreneurship community is a lot more welcoming than a lot of workplaces. People
100%. I've found my people.
Oh, yes.
And they're amazing.
They are amazing. And so you're right. A community is what it takes. I mean, how does a business operate anyway? The traditional business, it's a bunch of people, just like I said in the beginning, a bunch of people coming together to do a job. Well, if you want to start one of your own, I mean, you can be a crazy person and try and fail and try and fail and try and fail, and then not rely on others. And it's going to take you a significantly long time. Or you can grow a community or join a community where people will have conversations with you about these things. And by the way, they're all open to sharing what has worked for them and what doesn't. You can go out and pay $20,000 for an already existing program that might not work. But at the end of the day, even those people, I'm talking about a franchise, I'm not a big fan. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just not a fan. But fair. Yes. But, you know, at the end of the day, even those people still have to join a network and be a part of a community. So that's really what it takes. I'm glad you pointed that out, because not a lot of people understand that these people are out there as resources.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? The guy by the name of Jeffrey Knight. Oh, Jeff Knight. He said, "Never alone, indomitable, fly together." I love it. I love it.
Awesome.
You know, that's so good. I'm going to put it up here. What do you have to say about that, Tiffany? I mean, what type of things have you done to create your community and make yourself successful?
Yeah, well, first, I'm just grateful, again, that you are a part of it, that Jeff is a part of it. I love the nickname that he's given me. It's very endearing to me. And just we build community through our relationships, right? That's always been a skill that I've had and something that's important to me, whether I'm volunteering or I'm, financially contributing to something, serving on a board, starting a business that helps other Black and Brown businesses, other women, other small to medium businesses, other lots of things, right? We all need each other and it extends beyond the workplace. So for me, the vision is larger. It's the workplace for sure. And we got some work to do. But also, these are people who are every day walking about in community. We are in community together. And so we have to be able to build that and we have to be able to disagree sometimes, but do so in a healthy way. And so the skills that you and I are teaching people and that we're working with people and partnering with and asking our other entrepreneurs are skills, they're life skills, right? They're skills that everybody needs and we are impacting people's lives. It's not just about the workplace. I worked at a hospital once and I was just telling this story to somebody else. We were telling people who were on our janitorial staff that they are saving patients' lives. And it was like, wait, what? And you are, because you're disinfecting the hospital, you're preventing disease and infection. And to connect that for people opened up this world of engagement and pride in what they were doing when a lot of people were like, oh, you're just the housekeeping staff. The language we use and the words we use matter. But within a workplace, it can be a community as well. And that's the workplace of the future that I want to see built. And many of them exist, but many are not operating in that way too.
Wow. Everyone from the janitorial staff all the way up to the senior executive staff, you're right. I mean, that you brought up something in my mind. One thing I talk about a lot is the definition of leadership, the Army definition of leadership. It's providing purpose, direction, and motivation while operating to accomplish the mission and improve the organization. So that's a very in an organization type definition of leadership, because there are many more. It's all about making influence. But back, kind of to your point, that purpose that people have in an organization, they lose a sense of that because they know that they are there to clean things. But why was that person hired to clean things? It's a why. They need to understand why they are there. I mean, the direction, that's the job, but the motivation. So that's the purpose and the motivation are what people commonly forget to talk about with their employees at work. They need to know that they are there for a reason and that they are valued for that reason. And they also need to know that they are cared for. And that there are a number of resources, including you, because you're talking to them. So those are two key components that a lot of people miss. And it's from a culture standpoint, if you don't talk about it, people won't have these conversations with their employees. And so it's very important to make sure that those regular conversations are happening. So thank you for bringing that up. I just think that that's one crucial thing that a lot of people don't do these days.
I love that. And it's so funny. Like everything we're talking about, we could have scripted this better because it's like all the conversations I've been having this week. Like 2 of them from today, 1 from yesterday. My client was talking about purpose when we were talking about a project. So we have to have that purpose. And for us as CEPHR, like purpose and meaning at work is one of our values. We have to know why we're doing stuff. And I continue to stress that with people. I think it's connected also to what Michael is saying about this disconnect in these cultivated relationships. If we don't have ongoing relationships, ongoing conversations, even the hard ones, it's really hard. But to the point of community and cultivating relationships, that's really important. And we can on social media cultivate our feed, clean it up, do whatever we need to do to keep that how we want it to be. But we really do. I love how he says cultivate. We have to do that because there's a lot of transactional happening on LinkedIn too, in our entrepreneurial space and in general, a lot of people giving us their opinions, but the absence of the relationship. So I really appreciate that share as well.
Oh yeah. And to Michael's point, there is an absence of it But I think if you're the person who really truly cares about their community and the problem that you're solving, you're not going to be able to establish a relationship with everybody on social media. You're not even going to be able to establish a relationship with everybody in your community out in your local community. But when you find those people who are valuable relationships, whether they're valuable because they're your quote unquote shoulder to cry on when you're struggling in your business, or
many times, JJ.
Oh gosh, or if they're just part of a problem solving group that you have, or maybe they're just a referral, just a big time referral source for you. Those are the people that you stick with. There are going to be so many people that listen to you talk about what you do, and they're just going to go, oh, and then move on. Don't beat yourself up trying to cultivate a relationship with those people, because obviously if that's how they talk, they're not trying to cultivate one with you. However, those people that go, oh, tell me more. Well, if they're interested in you, then that means that they want you to pour back into them, because they're going to keep reciprocating that. And those are the signs you got to look for. And it's the same at work, right? Not every single one of your employees want to have a regular conversation with their manager. You have to treat everybody differently. I had to learn that, because coming out of the military, I was Mr. Talky Talks a lot. But when you move into the civilian workforce, things are different. And, some people just want to be left alone to do their job, and you check in with them once in a while just to see if there's anything they need. Some people, they're going to want to take up as much of your time as they possibly can, because they just want to talk. And, it's the same thing. So you got to figure out where to put your time. And I talked way too much about that, but that just brings up a really, really good point, because community and how you cultivate those relationships, you can't do it with everybody. And that can cause a lot of people to get frustrated.
But what you touched on, JJ, is care at work, which is core to what we do and we talk about all the time. And also the community piece, but the equity piece of everyone needs something different. Like I'll see managers who are like, oh my gosh, they just constantly need me. They need me. And it's like, sometimes that's just how it is. That person needs more feedback, and it is our job as leaders to give that feedback. And so you have to have enough understanding and spend enough time with your team to understand who needs that and to meet them where they're at. It's really about meeting them where they're at. So I love what you started.
I like this Jeffrey Knight guy.
Listen, he's one of my favorite people.
Is he really? So
he's so sharp.
He says, no one is just a just. Oh my gosh, you are so right. Everyone contributes to the goal, no matter the position. Jeremiah Hardy, the disconnect is wide. Community and the relationships they are build the key. Indomitable Tiffany Castagno. Oh my, you know what? I love that he gave you that nickname. I think that is the funnest nickname in the entire world.
It's so right. It's so unique, and it's very unique to our relationship, which I appreciate. So
I won't ask you to explain it.
Years now.
That's something for the two of you.
It's very fun. It's the power of community, though, and like the nod of, hey, you got this, because we all recognize that life is not and work is not always perfect, right? He gets this whole leadership thing as well. And it's about building each other up. It's about breaking down the barriers, breaking down the bridges, and showing up for one another. When we talk about community, that it extends in the workplace, but also outside of it. How are we showing up for each other? Because we don't know what people are going through. We haven't fully walked their walk, even if we're similarly situated. And so it's so important. Idea sharing, perspective sharing, like we're doing, like Michael and Jeff and you and I are doing, and whoever else is going to watch on team replay and maybe watching in silent in his comments, it's all good. We got to show up for each other, but we first have to show up for ourselves. When we talk about leadership, it also involves self-leadership. And that's why we talk about emotional intelligence so much, because sometimes that's a gap as well. We got to first show up for us, and then we can be in community with others.
Yeah, you're right. And if we're not right with ourselves, it's going to be very hard to be there for somebody else, whether it's in our community or at home or whatever the case may be. I mean, it's that idea when you're on an airplane, when you're up there, they brief you on these masks that you wear when you're flying. before you help somebody else don their mask, you got to put yours on first. And the reason you do that is because if you can't even take care of yourself, then how are you going to be able to take care of that person to the right and left? What if it's a kid? If you die when you're on an airplane, that kid is there. You may have helped him get his mask on, but then he's going to have all kinds of questions after everything happens. I mean, that's a little bit dark. Sorry, military guy coming out in me. I'll go to that first almost every time. If one guy falls, you got to make sure that you can keep going. But
respect. I think it's light and dark. Life is, this is part of it though. We have to sometimes be in hard times, and we have to know how we can get through them and what support we need, our community, our leadership team, our employees, mentors, sponsors, like all that matters. And there's a lot of, we talked about toxic, or we talked about social media, and there's a lot of toxic positivity going around too. Like, oh, it's all fine. Everything's fine. The world is not fine right now.
No.
Let's be honest with ourselves. And we don't do ourselves any favor by pretending it's not, but we can get through it together, and we can fly together. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I went through a course, and I actually used this for my coaching program, and I'll be teaching a certification course on this soon. But
Yay.
it's about resiliency, and that's why I call myself a resiliency coach. And what they use for that is a lot of the stuff that what they teach in cognitive behavioral therapy or cognitive behavioral coaching. And it's when you're helping somebody figuring out what is causing all of the negative beliefs that they have for themselves, so that you can help them reframe and change their mindset from a negative to a positive. When you can do that for yourself, and you went through that process, you're probably going to be one of the most valuable people, because you'll be able to help somebody else with that same thing.
Mm-hmm. I love that. It speaks to getting to the root of things. Often we want the Band-Aid because we feel the pain, and then we didn't do our work, right? We rip it off and it's gushing.
We all spend too much time doing that.
Yeah, I'm guilty of it too. I told my client the other day, I got to rip the Band-Aid off and get back down to it. We just have to own it, right? And we can have support along the way.
That's right. Drink water, change your socks.
Change your socks. Can we talk about that?
Okay. So that goes back to an analogy. It's another military analogy. When you're out in the field, it's very important to take care of your feet. So
makes sense.
And when you're doing hard work, you got to stay hydrated. So what they'll do when you're doing a ruck march or something like that is they'll have everybody stop, put their pack down, and they'll tell you, okay, now just time to drink water, change your socks. But that phrase is coined to almost everything in the military, because it's almost like suck it up and drive on, drink water, change your socks. Anyway.
So applicable. Thanks for sharing that. I was like, what? I understand the water. What are we doing?
Look on your face.
Yes, change your socks, hygiene and all. But,
yes, it's hygiene. Well, you don't want trench foot, right? So we are at almost 28 minutes. At this point in the podcast call, what I usually do is I ask my guest if there's any special message or a promotion or both that they would like to share with the audience here, because when I do these shows, it's really all about you. So go ahead, Tiffany, if you're willing.
I appreciate that. I just welcome conversation. I'm so grateful for those of you who showed today to listen and learn and teach. And you can reach me if you want to chat. You can send me a DM. We do have an exciting something brewing that we're launching soon. For Leadership 360. It's very unique to CEPHR for getting the feedback, building trust in the culture, getting you the actionable feedback that you need. Very unique from typical 360s. And I'm really excited. It's built on our values and my vision of really bringing HR to the forefront, helping shape leadership and cultures. And so it's just an action-packed guide to help you. If you want to learn more, you can DM me. So that's what's exciting cooking back there. We got some fun videos that have been coming out as well. We've been doing some new video marketing, and I'm going to pre-celebrate that it's almost year 5 here. So really winding down the year here strong. So
wow, I forgot that you had been in business for that long. I remember you. I meet a whole ton of people, but sometimes that's the one thing that I forget is how long you've been doing it. Because you moved to your new place. I forgot that it's been almost 5 years since you started. But I mean, this is great. I think that Tiffany would be a valuable resource, especially if you're in her area of Wisconsin. But, you know, why would I bring somebody on that has a similar type business that I do that helps with culture transformation and stuff like that? It's because honestly, if you're leaders like me and Tiffany and you really care about the people, we want your organizations to get the help that they need. We don't actually care where they get it. Yeah, we have a business to run, but at the end of the day, if your business is investing in their professional development and taking care of their culture, it's going to make a better workplace for everybody that's inside of it. So that's what matters the most. So thank you for sharing your promotions. I think that's great. I've actually heard of similar things like Leadership 3 or what is it called? Is it Leadership 360?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think anyway, we'll talk offline about that.
Yeah.
You piqued my interest because I've heard of stuff like it, but thank you for being a guest. And just like I tell everybody, if you're hearing this and you want to be a guest, hit me up. But if you heard something on this specific episode that resonated with you, please like it, subscribe to it, reshare it with your audience if you really like it that much. But the most important thing is that if you have a question or you want to keep the conversation going about something that we said during the episode, please comment below so that we see that, because if you don't say it, we don't know it. So thanks again, and I will see you all next time on another episode of Victory Leaders Lounge.